The colony world of Valora was burning. Once, its sky was blue and calm, its cities full of light and song. But now the air was heavy with smoke. The ground shook under the thunder of enemy weapons. The people ran through broken streets, carrying children, searching for shelter, but there was no shelter. No safety. No peace. The Zorath Empire had come. 4 generations, their fleets had spread across the stars, crushing weak worlds and enslaving their people. Where the Zorath arrived, mercy never followed. And now, Valora was next. The Velorans were not warriors. They were farmers, teachers, healers, builders of homes. Their colony was young, meant to be a place of learning and growth. They had no great armies, no fleets of warships, no defenses strong enough to resist. Against the Zorath, they had nothing, except a single desperate chance. Inside the command hall, hidden beneath the planet's surface, the leaders gathered. Their faces were tired, their eyes red with fear, but still they stood together. On the main console, a message waited. It was short. Simple. A plea written in a language older than any of them had ever spoken. A language that carried across the stars. "It may not reach anyone," one elder whispered. His voice was weak, shaking with age. "It must," another replied firmly. "If there is even a chance, we must try." They had debated for days, but now there was no choice. If no one answered, Valora would fall, and their people would vanish. The message was not sent to neighbors or allies. It was not sent to friendly traders or nearby colonies. It was aimed far away, beyond familiar stars, to those who walked in the deep dark of the galaxy. It was meant for humans. The elder pressed the button. The console glowed, and the signal shot into the void, one last call for salvation. "Help us! We are dying!" The days that followed were worse than nightmares. The Empire's ships circled above the planet like carrion birds. They fired without mercy, destroying cities, burning fields, poisoning rivers. The Velorans had no weapons to strike back. All they could do was hide, in caves, in ruins, in the shadows of their once proud homes. Every day, the survivors whispered to each other, "Humans will come. Humans will save us." Even the children believed it. Parents told them stories of the humans, stories carried through the galaxy for centuries. Tales of a people who had once stood against empires greater than Zorath. Soldiers who fought not for conquest, but for freedom. Ships so powerful they could tear fleets apart with a single strike. They were legends, yes. Stories told around fires. But stories were all Valora had left. 1 week passed. Then another. The SOS signal went out into the endless dark, but no reply came. Inside the caves, hope began to break. Food grew scarce. The sick and wounded filled every corner. Children cried in the night, and parents had no answers for them. One evening, a young leader named Sarai stood before the council. Her voice shook with anger and grief. "We wait for ghosts," she said. "The humans are myths. If they were real, they would have come already." An old elder shook his head. "Do not say that. Hope is all we have left." Sarai looked toward the mouth of the cave, where fire rose on the horizon from another fallen city. Her hands clenched into fists. "Hope does not stop the Empire," she whispered. "Hope does not save our people." Silence filled the chamber. Outside, the roar of Zorath machines echoed across the night. But far beyond their reach, in the frozen dark between the stars, the signal still traveled. It leapt from one ancient relay to the next. It crossed systems abandoned long ago. It faded, flickered, nearly lost, until at last, someone heard it. On the edge of human space, a console lit up. A message blinked into view. Old eyes read the words. Old hands typed a response. The humans had heard. But what they chose to send was not what the Velorans expected. Valora's skies grew darker with each day. The Empire was preparing its final strike. Soon, they would wipe out the colony completely. Families held each other close. Some prayed. Some wept. Some waited in silence. That night, Sarai stood outside the caves. Her heart was heavy. She looked up at the broken sky and whispered, "No one is coming." And then, the stars moved. At first, it was only a shadow, so large it seemed like part of the night itself. But as it slid across the heavens, blocking the moons, the ground began to tremble. Dust fell from the cliffs. The air itself seemed to hum. The Velorans ran into the open. They pointed, gasped, cried out. Something was arriving. It was not a Zorath ship. Its shape was wrong, too sharp, too vast, too ancient. Its engines burned with a strange, white fire, brighter than the sun. The old elder fell to his knees. His voice broke as he whispered. They came. The humans came. The crowd cheered, sobbing with joy. Humans! The humans have come. But Sarai did not cheer. Her eyes narrowed, her breath caught in her throat. This was no relief ship. Not a freighter full of supplies. Not a fleet of soldiers. This was a warship. And not just any warship. It was enormous, larger than any vessel she had ever seen. Its hull was scarred from battles older than their colony itself. Its weapons bristled like the spines of some ancient predator. Its shadow swallowed the land beneath it. Sarai felt cold fear spread through her chest. For the first time, she wondered if they had made a mistake. The humans had come. But had they come to save Valora, or to destroy it? The warship's engines roared. The ground shook. Its shadow spread across the ruined cities. And the people of Valora whispered the same question, over and over. Is this rescue, or doom? The warship hung in the sky like a black sun. Its vast hull stretched from horizon to horizon, blocking the moons and casting half the valley into shadow. The air shook with the thunder of its engines. Every building, every cave, every mountain seemed small beneath it. The Velerans stared upward in silence. Some knelt in worship, whispering thanks. Others clung to each other, trembling with fear. 4 days, they had prayed for salvation. And now, something had come. But was it salvation, or something far worse? In the command caves, the council gathered again. Their voices were sharp, desperate, divided. They answered, one shouted. The humans answered. We are saved. Another slammed his fist against the stone table. Saved? Look at that ship. That is no vessel of mercy. That is a monster of war. The old elder, the one who had pressed the signal, lifted his hand. His voice was calm, though his eyes were wide with awe. Whatever it is here. We must meet them. The council fell silent. On the surface, a smaller craft detached from the massive warship. Compared to the great vessel above, it was like a grain of sand falling from a mountain. Yet it was still larger than any ship the Velerans had ever built. The smaller craft descended slowly, fire blazing from its thrusters. It landed on the broken plain outside the caves, the ground shaking under its weight. The doors opened. And from the dark, humans stepped out. They were tall. Taller than the Velerans had expected. Their armor gleamed black and silver, scarred and battered but unbroken. Strange symbols marked their shoulders, symbols no Veleran could read. Helmets hid their faces, glowing visors masking their eyes. The people whispered in awe. They are warriors. No, they are executioners. The humans walked forward in silence, their boots striking the ground like drums of war. At their center was the commander. He wore no cape, no crown, no sign of comfort. Only heavier armor, marked with more scars than the rest. He stopped in front of the Veleran leaders, his visor glowing faintly in the smoke. At last, he spoke. Who sent the call? His voice was deep, cold, like iron striking stone. The old elder stepped forward, trembling. We did. We are the colony of Valora. We begged for aid. The commander tilted his head. For a moment, there was only silence. Then he said, You asked for humans. Now humans are here. The Velerans gasped. Some cried with relief. Others shivered, sensing something darker. The elder bowed deeply. We are grateful. Our people are dying. The Zorath Empire destroys us. Please, help us. The commander did not answer at once. His visor turned toward the burning horizon, where Zorath ships still circled like vultures. At last, he spoke. We did not come to comfort you. We did not come with food, or medicine, or soldiers to hide behind your walls. He raised one armored hand, pointing toward the sky. We came with fire. The words fell heavy across the plain. The Velerans stared at him, hearts pounding. Was this what they wanted? Was this what they had called? Sarai, standing at the front of the crowd, stepped forward. Her voice trembled, but she forced herself to speak. You mean, war? The commander turned his visor toward her. Your enemy is ours now, he said. And when humans make war, it ends only one way. The Velerans fell into uneasy silence. Some felt relief. Some felt dread. For they realized something terrible. The humans had not sent aid. They had sent a weapon. That night, the Velerans gathered in their caves and whispered about what they had seen. The humans had spoken little more, only that they would prepare. They had returned to their ship, leaving the colony below to wait. But the people could not rest. They had heard the legends, yes, but seeing the truth was different. The ship above them was not a story. It was real, and its power was beyond anything they had imagined. Why only one ship? Some asked. Why send such a monster, instead of many smaller ones? Others wondered. No one had answers. Sarai sat apart, staring at the warship through the cracks of the cave ceiling. Its shadow swallowed the stars, its weapons gleaming faintly in the night. She felt both awe and fear. The humans had answered their call. But she could not shake the question in her heart. What price would Valora pay for their help? The next day, the sky blazed with light. The Zorath Empire had returned in force. Dozens of enemy ships descended, ready to finish their conquest. Their weapons charged, glowing red with death. The Velerans panicked, crying out in despair. But above them, the human warship stirred. Its engines roared like thunder. Its guns turned slowly, locking onto the enemy. And in that moment, every Veleran felt the same thing, fear. Not fear of the Zorath, but fear of what the humans were about to do. The Zorath Empire did not wait. At dawn, their fleet descended, black shapes cutting across the sky. Dozens of warships filled the heavens, their engines burning red, their weapons glowing like angry stars. To the Velerans on the ground, it felt as though the very sky was falling. The people cried out in terror. Many ran back into caves and ruins, clutching their children. Others simply stared upward, frozen in despair. They had seen the Empire's wrath before. Every ship meant death. Every weapon meant fire. The colony would not survive another attack. But this time, the Velerans were not alone. High above, the human warship moved. It did not rush. It did not scatter. It turned with slow, heavy grace, like a predator waking from long sleep. Its engines roared, shaking the mountains below. Its hull gleamed in the rising sun, scarred yet unbroken. The Zorath ships opened fire first. Streams of plasma rained down, striking the human vessel from every side. Explosions lit the sky. The Velerans screamed, certain the warship was finished. But when the fire cleared, it was still there, unharmed. The commander's voice echoed across the Veleran comms, cold and calm. Now you will see why humans build ships such as this. The warship answered. Its guns lit up, a storm of white fire bursting from its sides. The blasts did not simply strike, they tore. Entire Zorath cruisers vanished in seconds, ripped apart as if made of paper. Smaller ships disintegrated instantly, their wreckage burning as it fell through the atmosphere. The Velerans watched in stunned silence. Where once the Empire's fleet had filled the sky, holes now opened, each one carved by the human ship's fury. This is impossible, one Veleran whispered. It is not war, another said, voice shaking. It is slaughter. The Zorath fought back with fury. Their largest battleships gathered together, combining firepower, unleashing weapons so strong they could melt cities. The human warship endured. Its shield shimmered, bending under the onslaught, but never breaking. Its guns burned brighter, answering with terrible precision. One strike, and a battleship split in half. Another, and a carrier exploded, its fragments raining fire on the Empire's own fleet. The Velerans had never seen such destruction. And yet, in their hearts, all began to turn into fear. For they realized something terrible. If the humans chose, that same fire could erase Valora itself. On the ground, Sarai stood at the mouth of the caves, eyes fixed on the sky. Around her, the people cheered wildly. Some wept with joy, some shouted prayers, some fell to their knees in worship. But Sarai did not cheer. Her heart pounded with dread. Yes, the humans were saving them. Yes, the Empire was falling. But she could not ignore the cold, merciless way the warship moved, the way it destroyed without hesitation. There was no anger in its strikes, no passion. Only precision. It was not fighting for Valora. It was fighting because that was what humans did. The battle raged for less than an hour. By its end, the once mighty Zorath fleet was gone. Broken. Shattered. Wreckage burned in the atmosphere, falling like meteors across the plains. The Empire's last surviving ships turned and fled, engines burning as they vanished into the dark. Valora was safe, at least for now. The warship hovered above the planet in silence, smoke rising from its guns. Its presence blotted out the sun, casting a long shadow across the land. In the caves, the council gathered once more. Their voices trembled with both relief and terror. "We are saved," one said, almost in disbelief. "Yes," another whispered. "But at what cost?" The elder looked at them all, his voice quiet but steady. "The Empire has learned to fear us," he said. "But perhaps we should also fear the ones who saved us." Later that night, Sarai stood outside, staring up at the warship. Its lights flickered faintly against the stars, like the eyes of some great beast watching from above. She thought of the legends told about humans, their great wars, their terrible victories, the empires they had crushed. And she remembered the commander's words, "We came with fire." She shivered. The Velerans had prayed for salvation. And salvation had come. But salvation wore the face of something even the Empire feared. And Sarai could not shake the question that echoed in her mind. Had Valora been saved, or had it simply been chosen as the first witness to humanity's true power? The battle was over. The skies above Valora were clear again, though streaked with smoke from burning wreckage. Fragments of the Zorath fleet still fell, glowing as they burned through the atmosphere. The ground was littered with ash. The Empire had been defeated, at least for now. The Velerans gathered outside their caves, looking upward. The great human warship still hung in orbit, silent and unmoving, like a mountain of steel against the stars. Its guns were quiet, but its shadow stretched across the land like a warning. The people whispered in awe and fear. They destroyed an entire fleet. With one ship. No power in the galaxy could do this. That night, the humans summoned the council aboard their vessel. The Veleran leaders stepped into the shuttle, nervous and trembling. Even Sarai, who tried to hide her fear, felt her heart race as the shuttle rose toward the massive ship above. The closer they came, the larger it grew, until the hull filled every window. The scars across its metal surface were deep, marks of wars fought long ago. The shuttle docked, and the Velerans entered the warship. The air inside was cold. The corridors were lined with dark steel, lit only by pale lights that hummed softly. Strange symbols marked the walls, human words none of them could read. The sound of the ship's engines rumbled faintly under their feet, like the heartbeat of some sleeping giant. At the end of the corridor, the humans waited. The commander stood at the center, visor glowing faintly, his soldiers silent at his side. "You called for aid," the commander said. "Now you must understand what stands above your world." The Velerans looked at each other nervously. The elder stepped forward. "Your ship. It is unlike anything we have ever seen. It fights as though it were alive." The commander was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke. "This vessel is called the Revenant. It was built in an age when humanity fought wars across the stars. Not for conquest. Not for defense. But for survival." His voice grew heavier. In that time, humans created weapons not to win battles, but to end them. Entire fleets were erased. Entire worlds burned. The Revenant is one of those weapons. The Velerans froze. The elder's face went pale. "You mean, it was made to destroy planets?" The commander's visor tilted slightly. "It has done so before." The words fell like stones. Sarai felt her breath catch. She stepped forward, forcing herself to speak. "Why send such a ship here? Why not many smaller ships, or soldiers to protect us?" The commander turned his gaze to her. For a moment, she felt the weight of it pressing down, as though the ship itself were watching through him. "Because this is not aid," he said. "This is a warning." The council gasped. "A warning? To whom?" "To everyone," the commander replied. "The Zorath Empire believed your world was weak. They believed humanity would ignore your cry. They were wrong. Now the galaxy will remember what happens when humans are called." His voice was cold, final. The Velerans were silent. The elder bowed his head, his voice shaking. "You saved us. For that, we are grateful. But, at what cost? Why keep such a monster alive, if even you swore never to use it?" The commander's visor glowed brighter in the dim light. "Because the galaxy does not change," he said. "Empires rise. Tyrants conquer. Sooner or later, someone forces us to open the old doors." He stepped closer. His words were quiet, but each one struck like a blade. "You prayed for aid. We answered. But know this, when humans bring fire, it does not end until the stars themselves go dark. The council was dismissed. The Velerans returned to the surface in silence, their thoughts heavy with fear. That night, the people spoke of what they had learned. Some called the humans saviors. Others whispered they had summoned something worse than the Empire. Children asked questions their parents could not answer. And Sarai, staring up at the warship as it blotted out the stars, thought only one thing. They had not been rescued. They had been shown a glimpse of humanity's past. And she wondered, if this was only one ship, what else did humanity hide in the dark? Above them, the Revenant remained silent, its engines glowing faintly, its guns pointed toward the stars. Waiting. Watching. Reminding the galaxy that some legends should never have been awakened. The days after the battle were strangely quiet. For the first time in weeks, the skies above Valora were clear. No Zorath ships circled overhead, no bombs fell from the heavens. The people stepped out of caves and ruins, breathing fresh air again. Children laughed for the first time since the war began. But the joy did not last. Everyone knew the Empire was not finished. The Zorath had lost a fleet, yes, but the Empire stretched across dozens of systems. Their armies were endless, their resources vast. They would not accept defeat. They would return, stronger than before. And when they did, even the human warship might not be enough. The Veleran Council met again, their faces grim. The humans saved us once, one leader said. But the Empire will bring more ships. Hundreds, perhaps thousands. Another shook her head. No single vessel can fight such a force. But the elder looked calm. His eyes shone with something between fear and faith. You did not see as I saw, he whispered. That ship is not like ours. It is not like theirs. It is something older. Something made for wars we cannot imagine. I believe it can endure. The others fell silent. None could argue, but none could believe fully either. Meanwhile, Sarai stood on a cliff, watching the Revenant as it floated above the horizon. Its massive shape seemed almost alive, like a beast crouched and waiting. She remembered the commander's words. We came with fire. She did not doubt the ship's power. But she wondered about its purpose. Was it truly here to protect Valora? Or only to send a message to the galaxy? Her thoughts were broken by a low rumble. The ground trembled beneath her feet. The sky lit up. The Zorath had returned. This time, the Empire brought everything. From the dark void above, fleets emerged in waves. Hundreds of ships spread across the stars, their numbers so vast they blotted out the light. Carriers, cruisers, destroyers, all armed, all ready. At the center of the armada was their flagship, a vessel so massive it dwarfed even the cities below. Its hull gleamed red with fire, its weapons glowing like suns. The Velerans screamed in terror. The caves filled once more with refugees. Families huddled together, convinced their end had come. And still, above them, the human warship remained silent. Inside the Revenant, the commander stood at the viewing deck. His soldiers moved around him, their armor shining under the pale lights. The enemy fleet filled every screen. One soldier spoke. Their numbers exceed projections. The odds are impossible. The commander did not move. His visor glowed faintly as he answered. The odds are irrelevant. He raised his hand, pointing toward the enemy flagship. This ship ended worlds before. It will not fail now. His voice carried no doubt, no hesitation. Only certainty. The Velerans listened through their comms. Many felt relief, clinging to the human's calm words. But Sarai shivered. She heard no hope in his tone, only cold resolve. She whispered to herself, he speaks as if this battle is not about saving us, but about proving something. And in her heart, fear grew. The Zorath armada moved into position. The air filled with their signal, broadcast across the system, their voice dripping with fury. Human vessel. You interfere in matters beyond your place. You hide behind weaklings, but you cannot stand against the Empire. Surrender now, or be erased. For a long moment, there was silence. Then the commander replied. No. One word. Quiet. Final. The Zorath flagship responded with fire. The sky erupted. Thousands of plasma bolts, torpedoes, and beams of energy cut through space, all aimed at the lone human warship. The heavens burned as if stars were falling from above. The Velerans cried out, certain no ship could survive such fury. But the Revenant did not fall. Its shield shimmered, bending under the onslaught, but holding. Its engines roared, rising brighter than the enemy's fire. Slowly, with terrible grace, its guns turned toward the armada. The commander's voice echoed once more, calm and cold. Now, the war begins. On the ground, Sarai gripped the stone of the cliff until her hands bled. The sky was alive with fire, the sound of war shaking the planet itself. Around her, the people screamed, prayed, and wept. She could not look away. The Empire had come with its full strength. The humans had only one ship. The fate of Valora, and perhaps the fate of the galaxy, would be decided in this battle. And Sarai could not tell if she was watching her world's salvation, or its final doom. The sky above Valora became a battlefield of fire. The Zorath fleet stretched across the heavens, hundreds of ships filling every star with their red glow. Their weapons burned like suns, unleashing storms of plasma and missiles. The air itself shook as their fury rained down. At the center of it all, one ship stood alone. The Revenant. The human warship glowed with white fire, its shields flashing under the endless barrage. It moved slowly, deliberately, as though the chaos around it was nothing more than a storm to be endured. To the Velorans watching from below, it was like seeing a single mountain stand against an ocean. And the mountain began to strike back. The first volley came without warning. From its sides, the Revenant unleashed a wave of light so bright it blinded those who stared too long. Beams of energy lanced across the sky, cutting through Zorath ships as if they were paper. Cruisers exploded, carriers tore apart, destroyers vanished in silent bursts of flame. In seconds, dozens of ships were gone. The Velorans gasped, cheering wildly. Some fell to their knees, calling the humans gods. Others simply wept, unable to believe what they were seeing. But Sarai did not cheer. She watched with wide eyes, her heart pounding in dread. "This is not rescue," she whispered. "This is destruction." The Empire fought with rage. The Zorath flagship roared forward, its massive guns firing blasts powerful enough to shatter mountains. Its escort swarmed, hundreds of smaller ships darting in like blades. The Revenant did not retreat. It moved into the storm, its shields burning, its hull glowing under the impact. Then its weapons answered. A single blast from its main cannon struck the flagship's shields. The explosion was so great it lit the entire horizon, a false dawn over Valora. The Zorath flagship staggered but did not fall. It fired again, its fury shaking the skies. The battle became fire across the stars. On the ground, the Velorans could only watch. The heavens blazed with colors, red, white, gold, each strike a sunburst of death. Wreckage rained down, streaking across the night like falling stars. Children cried. Parents held them close. The people prayed louder, not knowing if they prayed for victory or for mercy. Sarai stood at the cliff's edge, refusing to look away. Every blast echoed in her chest, every explosion lit her eyes. She could feel it in her bones. This was no battle for Valora. This was a war between giants. And her people were only witnesses. Inside the Revenant, alarms rang. Systems shook. The crew worked with cold precision, their voices calm despite the chaos. Shields at 70%. Reactor stable. Enemy numbers still overwhelming. The commander stood silent at the center, visor fixed on the enemy fleet. "Maintain course," he ordered. His voice was steady, unbroken. "They will break before we do." His soldiers obeyed without question. The Zorath flagship pushed forward, determined to crush the humans. Its guns blazed, striking the warship again and again. Smaller ships swarmed, sacrificing themselves to weaken the shield. And still, the Revenant endured. Its cannons burned hotter, its missiles streaked like comets, its beams sliced through enemy formations. One after another, the Empire's ships fell. The Velorans cheered again, their voices rising with hope. But Sarai's fear only grew. She saw the pattern. The humans were not simply fighting to win. They were fighting to annihilate. No mercy. No pause. No surrender. Only fire. At last, the Zorath flagship faced the human warship directly. The two titans clashed, weapons screaming, shields sparking, the void itself shaking with their fury. The Velorans watched in silence. Every blast lit the world like lightning. Every strike felt like the end of all things. Then, with one final blast, the Revenant's main cannon fired again. The beam struck the flagship at its heart. Its shields shattered. Its hull cracked. For a moment, it glowed like a dying star, then it exploded, tearing apart in a storm of fire that filled half the sky. The Zorath fleet broke. Panic spread through their ranks. Ships fled in every direction, abandoning the battle. In moments, the armada was gone, leaving only wreckage, flames, and silence. The war was over. On Valora, the people erupted in cheers. They screamed, cried, and sang. Some danced in the ashes. Others fell to their knees, calling the human saviors, calling them gods. But Sarai stood apart. Her eyes were fixed on the warship above. It hung there, silent, its guns still glowing, its shadow stretching across the land. Yes, the Empire was gone. Valora was safe. But Sarai felt no peace. For she understood now, the humans had not simply defended her world. They had unleashed a power that could destroy worlds, fleets, even empires. And she knew the galaxy would never be the same again. Above them, the Revenant remained silent. Its engines pulsed softly, like the heartbeat of a giant. Its guns cooled, smoke drifting into the void. It had won. But to the Velerans below, one question remained. Had the humans come as saviors, or as a warning?